Commander Jiho Kim stood on the observation deck of Border Station Aegis and watched the stars. They looked peaceful, but Jiho knew better. He had spent 20 years protecting this border, and he understood what most people forgot. Space was dangerous. The aliens out there did not care about humanity. They only cared about what they could take. Behind him, Lieutenant Hannah Park worked at her station. She was young, only 28, and still believed that peace was possible. Jiho liked her optimism, but he knew it would not last. Everyone learned the same lesson eventually. The galaxy did not want peace with humanity. They wanted humans to disappear. The alarm broke the silence. Hannah's fingers moved quickly across her controls. Her face went pale. "Commander, we have ships crossing the border," she said. 3 vessels. They are Kryn. Jiho felt his jaw tighten. The Kryn were warriors. They believed in strength and dominance. They had tested human borders before, but never with 3 ships at once. "Send the standard warning," Jiho ordered. "Tell them to turn back immediately or we will fire." Hannah sent the message. They waited. The Kryn ships continued forward, ignoring the warning completely. Jiho was not surprised. The aliens always thought humans were bluffing. "Send it again," Jiho said. "Make sure they understand. This is their second warning." The second warning went out. Still, the Kryn ships moved deeper into human space. Jiho could see their formation on the tactical display. They were confident. They thought humanity was weak. "Third warning," Jiho said quietly. Hannah sent the final message. Her hands were shaking slightly. She had never been in a real combat situation before. Jiho had been in dozens. He knew what was coming next. The Kryn ships continued forward. They had made their choice. "Contact the Indomitable," Jiho ordered. "Tell Captain Minho to intercept and disable the lead vessel. Non-lethal if possible, but he has full authorization to use necessary force." Captain Minho Lee received the order aboard his destroyer. He was 38 years old and had never lost a battle. Some people said he was the best tactical commander in the fleet. Others said he was dangerous. Minho did not care what people said. He only cared about protecting the border. "All weapons online," Minho said to his crew. "Target the lead ship's engine section. Precision strikes only. We disable them, we do not destroy them unless they fire first." The Indomitable moved forward. It was smaller than the Kryn cruisers, but it was faster and more advanced. Human ships were built for efficiency, not size. Every weapon system was designed for accuracy. Every crew member was trained to perfection. The Kryn finally noticed the human destroyer approaching. They opened a communication channel. General Thexnor appeared on the screen. He was large and covered in armored scales. His voice was full of arrogance. "Human vessel, you will stand down," Thexnor demanded. "We are conducting scientific research in unclaimed territory. You have no authority here." Minho smiled coldly. "This territory was claimed 300 years ago. You have been warned 3 times. Turn back now or face the consequences." Thexnor laughed. It was a harsh, mocking sound. "Your species is young and foolish. The Galactic Council will hear about this aggression. You cannot threaten us." "I am not threatening you," Minho replied. "I am informing you. You have 10 seconds to turn around." The Kryn did not turn around. 10 seconds passed. Minho gave the order. The Indomitable fired. Its weapons were silent in the vacuum of space, but their effects were immediate. 3 precise shots hit the Kryn cruiser's engine section. Explosions blossomed across the hull. The ship stopped moving, power failing across its systems. The other 2 Kryn ships panicked. They had expected humans to back down. Instead, their lead vessel was crippled in seconds. They opened fire, but their weapons were too slow. The Indomitable dodged easily, moving with grace that seemed impossible for a warship. Minho's crew worked with calm efficiency. They disabled the second ship's weapons. The third ship tried to run. Minho let it go. There was no need to chase. The message had been delivered. Back on Border Station Aegis, Hannah watched the engagement with wide eyes. The entire battle had lasted less than 5 minutes. The Kryn had been completely outmatched. "Commander," she said quietly, "they are retreating. The disabled ships are requesting rescue." "Send medical ships," Jiho ordered. "We do not leave people to die in space, even if they are enemies. But make sure they understand. Next time we will not be so gentle." The Kryn ships limped back across the border. Within hours, their complaint reached the Galactic Council. They claimed humans had attacked without provocation. They demanded sanctions and punishment. Ambassador Suho Kang received the summons in his office on Earth. He was 51 years old and had spent his entire career trying to improve relations with alien species. He believed in diplomacy and cooperation, but even Suho knew the situation was different. He called Dr. Yuna Choi, the government's leading expert on alien relations and history. She arrived within the hour carrying several old files. "This has happened before," Yuna said, spreading the files across Suho's desk. "The Kryn tested our borders 60 years ago. Before that, the Vex tried 80 years ago. They all think we are weak because we stay isolated. Why do they keep testing us?" Suho asked. Yuna looked at him seriously. "Because they do not remember the old war. 300 years is a long time. Most species have forgotten what happened when they first tried to invade human space. They have forgotten why we built these borders in the first place." Suho felt a chill. He had read about the old war in history books, but it seemed so distant. Now it felt very close. "What do I tell the council?" he asked. "Tell them the truth," Yuna said. "The Kryn violated our space after 3 warnings. We responded with minimal force. If the council wants to punish anyone, they should punish the Kryn for breaking territorial law." But Suho knew it would not be that simple. The Galactic Council did not care about human sovereignty. They had always viewed humanity as a problem that needed to be controlled. Meanwhile, in a dark region of space between human and alien territory, something else was happening. Trade sovereign Velmara of the Vex Collective stood on the bridge of her mining ship. Her species valued profit above all else, and they had discovered something valuable in the forbidden zone humans called the Dead Zone. "How much voidstone have we extracted?" Velmara asked her chief engineer. "Enough to power a fleet, Sovereign," the engineer replied. "This material is incredible. If we can mine more, we will be the richest collective in the galaxy." Velmara smiled. The humans guarded this region closely, but they could not watch everywhere at once. The Vex would take what they wanted, and by the time humanity noticed, it would be too late. Back on Border Station Aegis, Jiho received an encrypted intelligence report. His face grew dark as he read it. The Vex were mining in the Dead Zone. They had no idea what they were risking. If they went too deep, if they triggered the wrong systems, everyone in the sector could die. He sent an urgent message to Earth High Command. Then he looked out at the stars again. The aliens thought humanity was paranoid and aggressive. They had no idea that humans were protecting them from something far worse than war. Soon they would learn. And Jiho hoped they would survive. The Ambassador Suho Kang had never felt so small. The Galactic Council chamber was massive, designed to make visitors feel insignificant. 200 species sat in tiered seats that rose up like a giant amphitheater. Their eyes watched him with expressions ranging from boredom to hostility. Very few looked friendly. Suho stood in the center of the chamber, alone on a platform that floated in the air. Above him, the Council Arbiter looked down from the highest seat. The Arbiter was ancient. Its species had been traveling space for 10,000 years. It viewed humanity as children playing with dangerous toys. "Ambassador Kang," the Arbiter's voice echoed through the chamber. "Your species has committed an act of aggression against the Kryn Commonwealth. Explain yourself." Before Suho could speak, General Thexnor stood up. His massive form dominated the Kryn section of the chamber. His voice was full of anger. "The humans attacked without warning," Thexnor declared. "My ships were conducting peaceful scientific research when they opened fire. We lost good warriors because of human barbarism. They cannot be trusted with territory. They must be brought under council authority." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Suho felt his heart sink. They had already decided. This was not a trial. It was theater. "That is not what happened," Suho said firmly. "General Thexnor, you were warned 3 times to leave human space. You ignored every warning. We have sensor logs and communication records that prove this." He activated his display, projecting the evidence for all to see. The timestamps were clear. 3 warnings, each ignored. The Kryn ships continued forward despite knowing they were violating sovereign territory. The Arbiter looked at the evidence briefly, then waved it away. "The warnings are irrelevant. Scientific research benefits all species. Your refusal to allow such research shows that humanity is selfish and backward. The Council does not recognize your claim to exclusive territory." Suho felt anger rising in his chest. "Our territory was legally claimed 3 centuries ago. Every species here signed the treaties that recognized it. Are you saying those treaties mean nothing?" "Times change," the Arbiter replied coldly. "Your species has isolated itself for too long. The galaxy needs cooperation, not barriers. We have decided that human space must be open to galactic commerce and scientific survey. That is not your decision to make, Suho said, his voice rising. Human sovereignty is not negotiable. The chamber erupted in noise. Some species shouted in agreement with the arbiter. Others argued among themselves. But Suho noticed that very few were defending humanity's right to control its own territory. The arbiter raised one appendage, and silence fell immediately. Here is our verdict. Humanity has 30 days to open its borders to approved galactic vessels. If you refuse, we will impose economic sanctions. Your species will be cut off from all trade and diplomatic relations. You will be alone. Suho looked around the chamber. He saw the faces of species that claimed to value justice and peace. But he also saw greed and arrogance. They wanted what humans had. They wanted access to human space, human technology, human resources, and they thought humanity was too weak to resist. No, Suho said quietly. The arbiter tilted its head. What did you say? I said no, Suho repeated louder this time. Humanity will not surrender its sovereignty. We will not open our borders to species that do not respect our laws. You can impose your sanctions. We have survived worse. The chamber exploded in chaos. Species shouted at each other. Some demanded immediate military action against humanity. Others called for more time. But Suho was already walking away from the platform. There was nothing more to say. He returned to his ship feeling exhausted. Dr. Yuna Choi was waiting for him. She had watched the entire proceeding from the observation gallery. That could have gone better, she said gently. Suho collapsed into a chair. They were never going to listen. This was predetermined. They want our space and they think we are too weak to defend it. Yuna pulled up her data tablet. I have been researching the old war. Do you want to know what really happened 300 years ago? Tell me, Suho said. The council did exactly what they are doing now, Yuna explained. They told humanity to submit to galactic authority. They said we were too young and primitive to govern ourselves. When we refused, they sent a punitive fleet to force compliance. What happened? Suho asked, though he suspected he knew. Humanity destroyed the fleet, Yuna said simply, not just defeated it. Destroyed it completely. The species that led the invasion no longer exists. After that, the council left us alone. But now, 3 centuries later, they have forgotten the lesson. Suho felt a chill. Are we going to war again? I do not know, Yuna admitted. But I do know that Commander Jiho is preparing for something. And Captain Minho has activated defensive protocols that have not been used since the old war. Back on Border Station Aegis, Lieutenant Hana Park was monitoring communications when she detected something unusual. Encrypted transmissions between the Vex Collective and the Kryn Commonwealth. She worked quickly to decode them. What she found made her blood run cold. The Vex and Kryn were planning a joint operation. They would send a combined fleet into human space exactly 30 days from now. They expected humanity to surrender immediately when faced with such overwhelming force. Commander, Hana called out. You need to see this. Jiho read the intercepted messages. His expression did not change. But Hana saw his hands tighten on the edge of the console. Send this to Earth High Command immediately, he ordered. And get Captain Minho on a secure channel. We need to accelerate our preparations. What preparations? Hana asked. Jiho looked at her seriously. Protocol blackout. If the aliens want to invade our space, they will learn the same lesson their ancestors learned. Human space is not open territory. It is defended territory, and we have had 300 years to improve our defenses. Over the next 30 days, human space transformed. Hidden weapons platforms came online. Defense satellites that had been dormant for decades activated their systems. Every colony, every station, every ship prepared for war. Captain Minho oversaw the mobilization of the Ghost Fleet, a secret network of stealth warships that few people knew existed. These vessels were invisible to most sensors, equipped with technology that humanity had developed but never shared with the galaxy. How many ships do we have operational? Minho asked his second-in-command. 47 vessels ready for deployment, came the reply. All crews are at battle stations. Stealth systems are functioning at optimal levels. Minho nodded. 47 ships against hundreds. The aliens would think those odds were impossible. But the aliens did not understand how humans fought. They did not understand that size was not the same as strength. On the 30th day, the combined Kryn and Vex fleet assembled at the border. General Thexnor commanded the Kryn forces from his flagship. Trade Sovereign Velmara led the Vex contingent. Together they had 300 warships. They were certain of victory. "Begin the advance," Thexnor ordered. "The humans will surrender when they see our strength. And if they do not, we will crush them." The alien fleet crossed into human space. Every sensor on every ship searched for targets. Every weapon system charged and prepared to fire. But there was nothing. No ships, no stations, no signals. Human space had gone completely dark. On Border Station Aegis, Jiho watched the alien fleet on his tactical display. He waited until they were deep inside human territory, too far to retreat quickly. Then he opened a communication channel to Captain Minho. "Execute protocol blackout," he said calmly. In the darkness of space, 47 ghost ships began to move. The hunt had begun. General Thexnor stared at his tactical display in confusion. His fleet of 300 warships had penetrated deep into human space, but there was nothing to fight. Every sensor showed empty void. Every communication channel was silent. It was as if humanity had simply vanished. "This is impossible," he muttered. "Where are they?" His sensor officer worked frantically at his station. "Sir, I am detecting nothing. No ships, no stations, no energy signatures. It is like human space is completely empty." Trade Sovereign Velmara contacted him from her flagship. Her voice carried an edge of nervousness. "General, my ships are reporting the same thing. This is some kind of trick." "Obviously," Thexnor snapped. "But what kind of trick?" "They must be using stealth technology. Send out probes. Find them." The Kryn launched dozens of sensor probes. The small devices spread out through the darkness, searching for any sign of human presence. The first probe transmitted data for exactly 3 seconds before it exploded. The second probe lasted 2 seconds. The third did not transmit at all. "What is happening to our probes?" Thexnor demanded. "Unknown, sir. They are being destroyed the moment they try to send information back to us." Fear began to spread through the Kryn fleet. They were warriors trained for battle, but this was different. They could not fight an enemy they could not see. The darkness pressed in around them, and somewhere in that darkness something was watching. Captain Minho Lee stood on the bridge of his stealth destroyer. Around him his crew worked in silence. Every surface was dark. Every system was optimized for invisibility. The ghost fleet moved through space like shadows, invisible to the alien sensors. "Target the outlying vessels," Minho ordered quietly. "One at a time. Make them afraid." His weapons officer nodded. The ghost fleet had divided into small hunting groups. Each group tracked a different section of the alien formation. They moved slowly, patiently, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. A Vex destroyer drifted at the edge of the formation. It was searching for human vessels when its sensors detected a faint signal. The captain ordered an investigation. The destroyer moved toward the signal, separating from the main fleet. It was a mistake. The moment the Vex ship was isolated, 3 human vessels decloaked around it. Their weapons fired simultaneously. The Vex destroyer's shields collapsed instantly. Its engines exploded. The ship went dark and began drifting, lifeless. The human ships vanished again before anyone could respond. "Sovereign," a Vex officer reported in panic. "We just lost the Prophet's glory. It was destroyed in seconds. We never even saw what hit it." Velmara felt ice in her veins. "How many attackers?" "Unknown. Our sensors detected nothing until weapons fire. Then they disappeared again. Over the next hour, 6 more ships disappeared. Each time the pattern was the same. A ship would detect a signal, move to investigate, and vanish. No distress calls. No warnings. Just silence." The alien fleet began to panic. Commanders ordered their ships to stay in tight formation, but that made them slower and less maneuverable. They fired their weapons at shadows, wasting ammunition on empty space. General Thexnor tried to maintain order, but even he was shaken. This was not how battles were supposed to work. Where was the honor? Where was the glory? They were being hunted like prey. "We need to retreat," Velmara said over the communication channel. "This is a massacre. We cannot fight what we cannot see." "No," Thexnor growled. "We do not retreat. We are 300 ships strong. The humans cannot have more than a few dozen vessels. We will overwhelm them with numbers." But numbers meant nothing in this fight. The human ship struck from nowhere and disappeared before retaliation was possible. They targeted isolated vessels, communication arrays, and engine systems. They did not try to destroy the entire fleet. They only needed to create terror, and it was working. Alien crews were breaking down. Some ships began firing on each other by accident, mistaking friends for enemies in the darkness. Others tried to flee individually, only to be picked off the moment they separated from the formation. On Border Station Aegis, Lieutenant Hannah Park listened to the alien communications. She heard the fear in their voices. She heard commanders losing control. She heard crews begging for orders. "Commander," she said quietly, "they are breaking. Should we offer terms?" Jiho shook his head. "Not yet. They need to understand completely. They need to know that entering human space without permission means death." He opened a channel to the alien fleet. His voice was cold and clear. "Attention all vessels. You were warned. You were told to stay out of human space. You chose to ignore those warnings. Now you will pay the price," Thexnor responded immediately. "Cowards! Show yourselves and fight with honor." "We are not cowards," Jiho replied. "We are defenders. You invaded our territory. We are simply removing you. If you want to survive, turn around now and leave. This is your only chance." Velmara made her decision. "All Vex ships prepare to retreat. We are leaving this cursed space." But retreat was not simple. The humans had mined the exit routes. Spatial mines that the aliens could not detect were waiting in the darkness. When the Vex fleet tried to leave, dozens of ships found their faster-than-light drives suddenly failing. They were trapped, unable to escape human space. Thexnor realized the truth. The humans had planned this from the beginning. They had allowed the alien fleet to enter deep into human territory, then cut off their escape. Now the invaders were surrounded, blind and helpless. "This is a war crime," Thexnor shouted into the communication channel. "The Galactic Council will hear about this. You cannot trap us here." Dr. Yuna Choi's voice came over the channel. She sounded calm and professional. "General, this is not a war crime. This is defense. And if you think the Galactic Council will help you, I suggest you contact them. Ask them what happened to the last species that invaded human space." "Oh wait, you cannot ask them. That species no longer exists." Her words sent a chill through every alien in the fleet. They had heard rumors about the old war, stories about a species that had tried to conquer humanity and been completely destroyed. They had thought those stories were propaganda. Now they wondered if the stories were true. Velmara tried to contact the Galactic Council. She sent desperate messages begging for intervention. She explained that humanity was slaughtering their ships, that they needed help immediately. The Council's response was cold and brief. "You acted without authorization. The Council cannot intervene in conflicts that we did not approve. You are on your own." Velmara stared at the message in shock. The Council had abandoned them. They had been used as test subjects, sent to probe human defenses. And now that the test had failed, the Council was washing their hands of responsibility. "General," she said, her voice breaking, "we need to surrender. This is not a battle we can win." Thexnor's pride fought against his survival instinct. But he looked at his tactical display and saw the truth. Half his fleet was disabled or destroyed. The rest were trapped and terrified. The humans were invisible, unstoppable, and utterly merciless. But before he could give the order to surrender, his navigation officer shouted, "Sir, I found a way out." "There is an unguarded corridor leading into the dead zone. If we go that way, we can escape." The dead zone. Even Thexnor knew that region was dangerous, but staying here meant certain death. At least in the dead zone, they had a chance. "All ships follow me," Thexnor ordered. "We retreat through the dead zone." On his destroyer, Captain Minho received the report. The alien fleet was fleeing into the dead zone. He could pursue them, finish them off, but he did not. "Let them go," he said quietly. "The dead zone will teach them why we guard that border so carefully." The surviving alien ships plunged into the forbidden region. Behind them, the human ghost fleet returned to the shadows. The battle was over, but the real horror was just beginning. The dead zone swallowed the fleeing alien ships like a mouth closing around prey. General Thexnor watched his sensors go mad. Stars flickered in and out of existence. Gravity pulled in directions that made no sense. Space itself seemed wrong here, twisted and broken. "Sir, navigation systems are failing," his officer reported. "I cannot plot a course through this region. The laws of physics do not work normally here." "Keep trying," Thexnor ordered, but he felt fear growing in his chest. They had escaped the human ghost fleet, but this place might be worse. Trade Sovereign Velmara contacted him, her voice tight with panic. General, my ships are losing cohesion. Some vessels are experiencing time dilation. Their clocks are running at different speeds. This region is tearing us apart. Then the sensors detected something massive ahead. At first, Thexnor thought it was a planet. But as they got closer, he realized it was a structure, an artificial construction floating in the void, ancient and enormous beyond comprehension. The structure was kilometers long, made of materials that did not match anything in the galactic database. Parts of it phased in and out of reality. Other sections glowed with eerie light that hurt to look at directly. "What is that?" Velmara whispered. "I do not know," Thexnor admitted, "but it is not human." More structures appeared on their sensors. Dozens of them. Hundreds. The dead zone was full of these ancient ruins drifting through the unstable space like ghosts. They were the remnants of a civilization that had existed long before any current galactic species. On border station Aegis, Dr. Yuna Choi watched the data coming from the alien fleet's sensors. They had gone exactly where she feared. She opened a secure channel to Commander Jiho. "They are in the precursor ruins," she said. "This is bad. If they trigger the defense systems, it could destroy everything within 100 light years." Jiho rubbed his face tiredly. "Should we try to warn them?" "It might be too late," Yuna replied. "The precursors built weapons we still do not fully understand. Some of them activate automatically when certain conditions are met." Back in human space, Ambassador Suho received an encrypted message from Earth High Command. He was ordered to prepare a full briefing on the dead zone and the precursors. The government had decided it was time to tell the galaxy the truth. Suho sat with Yuna in his office. She pulled up files that had been classified for 3 centuries. The precursors were the dominant species in this region of space billions of years ago, Yuna explained. They had technology so advanced it looked like magic. But they made a mistake. They discovered voidstone, a material that exists partially outside normal spacetime. "What did they do with it?" Suho asked. "They weaponized it," Yuna said grimly. "They built devices that could tear holes in reality, weapons that could destroy stars, defense systems that could kill anything that came near their territory. But the technology was unstable. Eventually, it destroyed them. The entire precursor civilization collapsed in a matter of years." She pulled up an image. It showed the dead zone from a distance, a region of space that shimmered and twisted unnaturally. "When humanity first explored this region 3 centuries ago, we found the ruins. We also found that many precursor weapons were still active, waiting in the darkness. We classified the entire region and built our borders specifically to keep others away from it." Suho felt understanding dawn. The old war. When the aliens tried to invade humanity, were they trying to access the dead zone? "Exactly," Yuna confirmed. "They wanted the precursor technology. They thought humans were hoarding it. When we refused to let them in, they invaded. We had no choice but to fight. And in the fighting, some of the precursor weapons activated. The invading species was completely annihilated, not by human weapons, but by ancient defense systems they triggered. In the dead zone, the Vex mining operation was still active. They had been extracting voidstone for weeks, thinking they had found an incredible treasure. The miners did not notice when their equipment began to glow with strange light. They did not notice when the ancient ruins around them started to activate. A precursor defense system came online for the first time in millions of years. It detected the mining operation as a threat. It responded the way it was programmed to respond. The entire Vex mining fleet vanished in an instant. No explosion, no debris. The ship simply ceased to exist, erased from reality by a weapon that bent the laws of physics. The shock wave from the activation spread through the dead zone. General Thexnor felt his ship shake violently. Alarms screamed across every system. "What was that?" he demanded. "Unknown, sir. But sensors are detecting massive energy releases throughout this region. Something is waking up." More precursor structures began to glow. Ancient weapon systems that had slept for eons were activating, responding to the presence of so many ships in their territory. The dead zone was becoming exactly what its name implied, a place where nothing could survive. On border station Aegis, Jiho made a decision. "Contact Captain Minho. Tell him to prepare a rescue mission." Lieutenant Hana looked at him in shock. "Sir, you want to rescue them? After everything they did?" "I want to prevent them from triggering something worse," Jiho said. If more precursor systems activate, the destruction could spread beyond the dead zone. We need to get them out before that happens. Captain Minho received the order with grim acceptance. He had hoped never to enter the dead zone again. He had lost people there before, during classified missions that most of humanity did not know about, but he understood the necessity. Prepare for navigation through unstable space, he ordered his crew. Load the precursor data files. We need every advantage to survive in there. The Ghost Fleet entered the dead zone using navigation data that humanity had spent 300 years collecting. They knew the safe routes, the patterns of reality distortion, the locations of dormant weapons. It was knowledge bought with countless lives and decades of research. Minho's ships found the remnants of the alien fleet. Half the vessels were already destroyed or disabled by spatial anomalies. The survivors huddled together, terrified and helpless. When they detected human ships approaching, they expected death. Instead, Minho opened a communication channel. "This is Captain Minho Lee of the United Earth Defense Fleet. We are here to extract you from the dead zone before more defense systems activate. Follow our navigation exactly or you will die." General Thexnor could barely speak. "You are rescuing us? Why?" "Because we are not monsters," Minho replied. "And because you need to understand what we have been protecting you from. Now move." "We do not have much time." The human ships guided the aliens through the nightmare region. They navigated around spatial tiers and reality distortions. They avoided ancient weapon platforms that tracked any movement. Several times, precursor systems targeted the convoy, but Minho's ships knew how to deactivate them using codes derived from centuries of study. The alien crews watched in awe. The humans moved through the dead zone like they owned it. They understood this place in ways that seemed impossible. Every decision Minho made was precise and confident. Trade sovereign Velmara realized the truth. Humanity had been studying the precursor ruins for 300 years. They had mapped every danger. They had learned to control systems that other species could not even detect. The borders were not about paranoia or aggression. They were about containment. Just as they reached the edge of the dead zone, another massive precursor weapon began its activation sequence. Energy built up in the ancient structure, preparing to release destruction on a scale that could sterilize entire star systems. "Get everyone out now," Minho shouted. "Full speed!" The human and alien ships fled as space itself began to tear apart behind them. They crossed the border back into human territory just as the weapon fired. The blast was contained within the dead zone, but the shockwave rattled every ship. In the silence that followed, General Thexnor stared at the dead zone on his view screen. He had seen death before. He was a warrior, but this was different. This was the end of everything, preserved in ancient machines that did not care about honor or glory. They only cared about destruction. "Thank you," he said quietly to Minho. "We were fools." "Yes, you were," Minho agreed. "But now you understand. Human space marks the edge of the galactic map because beyond that edge, there are things that should never be disturbed. We are not your enemies. We are your guardians." The Galactic Council chamber was silent. For the first time in recorded history, every species representative was paying complete attention. On the central platform, Ambassador Suho Kang stood with quiet confidence. Next to him, Dr. Yuna Choi prepared to share 300 years of classified information. General Thexnor and Trade Sovereign Velmara sat in their sections, still shaken from their experience in the dead zone. They had requested this emergency session. They needed the galaxy to understand what they had witnessed. The council arbiter looked down at Suho. Its expression was different now. The arrogance was gone, replaced by cautious respect. "Ambassador Kang, you have requested this session to explain human actions. The council is listening." Suho nodded. "Thank you. What I'm about to share has been classified by Earth for 3 centuries. But recent events have shown us that secrecy is no longer possible. The galaxy needs to know the truth about the dead zone and why humanity guards it so carefully." He activated a holographic display. Images of the precursor ruins appeared, floating in the air for all to see. The council members leaned forward, fascinated and disturbed by what they were seeing. "The dead zone is not empty space," Suho explained. "It is a graveyard. Billions of years ago, a species we call the precursors dominated this region of the galaxy. They had technology far beyond anything we currently possess. But they made a fatal mistake." Dr. Yuna stepped forward. "The precursors discovered a material called voidstone. It exists partially outside normal space-time. They used it to build weapons of incredible power, weapons that could destroy stars, defense systems that could erase entire fleets from existence. But the technology was unstable. It destroyed their civilization completely. She played footage that human exploration teams had recorded. The Council watched in horror as a precursor defense system activated, erasing a test probe from reality in an instant. When humanity first explored this region 3 centuries ago, we discovered the ruins, Yuna continued. We also discovered that many precursor weapons were still active, dormant but not dead, waiting for anything that came too close. General Thexnor stood up. His voice was heavy with emotion. I can confirm this. My fleet witnessed the activation of precursor systems. We watched as Vex mining vessels were completely destroyed by technology we cannot comprehend. If the humans had not rescued us, we would all be dead. Trade Sovereign Velmara added her testimony. We thought the humans were hoarding resources. We thought they were paranoid and aggressive. We were wrong. They have been protecting us from something that could destroy all galactic civilization. Suho looked around the chamber. 300 years ago, during what we call the Old War, other species made the same mistake. They demanded access to human space. When we refused, they invaded, not because we were a threat, but because they wanted the precursor technology. That invasion triggered dormant defense systems. The invading species was annihilated not by human weapons, but by ancient machines they awakened. The council chamber erupted in shocked conversation. Species argued with each other, trying to process this information. The Arbiter raised its appendage for silence. Why did you not share this information before? The Arbiter asked. Because knowledge is dangerous, Yuna replied. If the galaxy knew about the precursor weapons, some species would try to claim them. Others would try to study them. The result would be catastrophic. So humanity took on the burden of containment. We mapped the dead zone. We learned how to deactivate the most dangerous systems. We built our borders to keep everyone safe, including ourselves. Suho stepped forward. We are not conquerors. We are not paranoid. We are guardians. For 3 centuries, we have stood watch over something that could destroy the galaxy. We have done this alone, knowing that most species would hate us for it. But we did it because it was necessary. The Arbiter was silent for a long moment. Then it spoke, its voice carrying genuine respect for the first time. The Council acknowledges that we were wrong. We judged humanity without understanding the full situation. We pressured you into conflict without investigating your warnings. For this, we apologize. A formal apology from the Galactic Council was almost unprecedented. The chamber was completely silent. We propose a treaty, Suho said. Humanity will maintain control of the dead zone border. We will continue our containment efforts. In exchange, the Council will recognize human sovereignty and cease all unauthorized incursions into our space. We will also share our research on the precursors with approved scientific teams, so the galaxy can understand the danger without being exposed to it directly. The Council voted. The decision was unanimous. Human space was officially recognized as sovereign territory. The dead zone was declared a galactic exclusion zone under human guardianship. No vessel would be permitted to enter without explicit permission from Earth. After the session ended, General Thexnor approached Suho privately. The massive Kryn warrior looked humbled. Ambassador, I owe you my life, Thexnor said. Captain Minho could have left us to die. Instead, he risked his crew to save us. This is not the action of barbaric aggressors. It is the action of honorable protectors. We are all part of the same galaxy, Suho replied. Humanity does not want enemies. We only want to be left alone to do our job. If you truly want to honor us, spread the word. Tell other species what you learned. Help us prevent future conflicts. Thexnor bowed deeply. I will. You have my word. Back on Border Station Aegis, Commander Jiho stood at his usual spot on the observation deck. Lieutenant Hana joined him carrying 2 cups of coffee. Did you hear the news, sir? She asked. The treaty passed. The Council recognized our sovereignty. I heard, Jiho said, accepting the coffee. But the work does not end. We still have to guard the border. We still have to watch the dead zone. Nothing has really changed. Except that now they understand, Hana pointed out. They know why we do this. They respect us for it. Jiho allowed himself a small smile. Maybe. Time will tell. Captain Minho Lee received a promotion to Fleet Admiral. He was tasked with training a new generation of officers in the tactics and strategies of border defense. For the first time in years, he felt hope. The galaxy was finally learning to work with humanity instead of against it. Lieutenant Hannah Park was appointed as humanity's chief liaison to the Galactic Council. Her optimism, now tempered with realism, made her perfect for the role. She would help build bridges between species while ensuring that human interests were protected. Dr. Yuna Choi established the Institute for Precursor Studies, a joint human-alien research organization. Scientists from dozens of species came to study the ancient ruins under carefully controlled conditions. They learned about the precursors while humanity ensured the dangerous technology remained sealed. Ambassador Suho continued his work, negotiating new agreements and fostering understanding between humanity and progressive alien species. He had learned that diplomacy required both idealism and strength. Peace was possible, but only when all sides respected each other. 5 years passed. Human space remained heavily defended, but the atmosphere had changed. Trade flourished along authorized routes. Joint research missions explored safe regions near the dead zone. Alien species began to understand that humanity's isolation had never been about hatred or fear. It had been about responsibility. On Border Station Aegis, a new generation of officers took their posts. Commander Jiho, now promoted to admiral, watched them with pride. They were young and eager, ready to continue the watch that humanity had maintained for 300 years. He thought about everything that had happened. The Kryn invasion, the Council's arrogance, the rescue in the dead zone, the treaty that followed. All of it had led to this moment when the galaxy finally understood. Human space marked the edge of the galactic map. Not because humans were weak or afraid, not because they wanted to conquer or dominate. It marked the edge because humanity was strong enough to bear the burden of protecting everyone from what lay beyond. They had proven that strength did not require aggression, that vigilance did not mean paranoia, that protecting others, even at great cost, was the truest form of honor. Those who forgot that lesson had paid dearly. But they had survived. They had learned. And now the galaxy was better for it. Deep in the dead zone, dormant precursor machines continued their endless sleep. The ancient ruins drifted through broken space, monuments to a civilization that had reached too far. But humanity watched over them, ensuring their mistakes would not be repeated. Admiral Jiho looked out at the stars one more time. They were still dangerous. Space was still unforgiving. But for the first time in 300 years, humanity was not alone in understanding that. The watch would continue. The border would be maintained. And the galaxy would remain safe, protected by a species that asked for nothing except the right to do their duty. Somewhere in the darkness beyond human space, a single light flickered in the depths of a precursor ruin. It was faint, barely detectable, but it was there. The ancient machines were not as dead as everyone believed, and they were watching, but that was a story for another time. For now, the galaxy was at peace, and humanity stood guard at the edge of the map, where they had always belonged.